Okay, so I was born on August 26th, 2000. But to be honest, I don't remember much after that. So I'll hand it over to my mum from here.
So you were, really easy, contented baby. But you were like the first baby, first grandchild, first nephew. Yeah. So on both sides, on your dad's side and on our side, you were the golden baby.
No, a lot of pressure on me as a youngin'.
You lapped it up.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah, you were. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you could do no wrong as soon as you were born.
Yeah.
You're like, farted. Oi! You pooped. Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Auckland, we had a lot of family around, and clearly I was very spoiled by that. But when my dad got a job opportunity in a little but beautiful place called New Plymouth, we moved down there to what would be a better life.
We had fun, you and I. We walked everywhere. We had Jade, a Staffy Bull Terrier, and she loved you so much because I think you tasted quite good. Like, she used to lick your face and lick your hands.
Right, well, I'd imagine I'd get stuff all over it, wouldn't I?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember one day coming up and you were pressing on her eyeball and pressing it in and out, and she was like just going, okay, I'm okay with this. Or sticking your finger up her nose, or that she was like, you're a little experiment.
Yeah.
But you used to love dressing up. You were like
really? Okay.
Build a cross with a ballerina.
I do remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have like Bob the Builder outfit on the top with goggles, with a tutu with your dad's building belt on as well. We've got photos of that. Yeah, we used to go camping. Me, you and your dad went camping at Waiheke. One year we got out there and realised that we'd left all the bedding behind.
Oh.
Like, we had all of the blow-up mattresses and stuff, so me and you stayed there while your dad went back and picked it up.
Yeah.
But so I got a photo of you on a blow-up bed covered with towels.
Yeah.
Yeah, as your blankets, because you were fast asleep. I also had taught you to pee outside.
Yeah.
So you just stood at the edge of the tent and peed outside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but that's outside, but not far enough. Yeah, that was funny.
Pushing the limits.
Auntie Paula had a story about you because you went to daycare. So Auntie Paula was there as well, because she's an early childhood teacher. She was there, and you went to Brooklyn Zoo, and you... they couldn't find you anywhere anyway. When they did find you, you were in the bush having a pee.
Right.
Yes, you were very creative for that.
At 3 years old, my mum and dad split up. Mum said she didn't want me to grow up thinking that is what a loving relationship looks like. My dad moved back up to Auckland, and I spent a few times a year with him. From then on, I was mainly raised by my mum, Auntie Paula, and Nana, which didn't leave me shy of love and attention.
But yeah, when you started school, the other thing you did was sports. You loved... you've been kicking a ball since you were tiny.
Yeah.
We've got photos of you where the ball looks like half the size of you. But yeah, you were a very passionate, serious soccer player. Saying that though, you wouldn't... It was so funny. You were like the kid that figured out which way you were supposed to be going to score a goal. Because when you're that little, soccer is often the ball with two teams like bumblebees just following the ball around, and that's how you start off, because everybody wants the ball. You're very serious. You also had to take turns in the different positions, and you didn't like that.
No.
Because no way did you want to be a goalie.
Yeah,
you want to be on the pitch running around. And so we had to pay you to be a goalie. And then actually we also started paying you for getting goals. Well, you became very rich quite quickly. It was like just that motivate. I don't know, but yeah, you just we had to do it to get you to be a goalie, but then actually getting the goals once you're out on the field, it worked. Yeah, we had to stop paying you after a while because we were becoming broke.
When I was younger, my teeth were as crooked as a broken piano that was out of tune and also on fire. I had a retainer and eventually braces for the next 7 years to correct them. Oh, I also had 3 goofy-toothed cousins from my Auntie Paula, Macy, Jimmy, and Jed. We would spend a lot of time together at barbecues, picnics, and other outings. I really liked school because I didn't find it hard, but I hated when I had to learn something I couldn't understand. I remember learning about multiplication for the first time. It made me upset that 2 times 1 didn't equal 3. It didn't make any sense, and therefore it must have been a load of rubbish. And due to my love of sports, I quickly got established with a group called the Rugby Boys. Not exactly the most creative name. We were kind of the popular kids at school, but mainly because we were assholes and mean to everyone, including each other. Luckily, I did have another friend, Ryan, who was separate from this group. I was bullied a lot by these boys, even though I was their friend. By the time I hit high school, I decided I wanted better friends, and left the Rugby Boys for a more nerdy group instead with Ryan. They were not happy about this, and we would bicker in person and online for like the next 2 years. Neither of us were very nice to each other. Around this time, the few times a year I saw my dad turned into 0. My mum had found a great guy called Hamish who had 2 daughters of his own, and we all moved in together. There were times I found my stepsisters annoying, but most of the time we got along and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, so then from 16 onwards, I played a lot of video games. I think that's when I really sort of kind of like, that's when that became like one of my main things in life that I did outside of school. Also, YouTube, the platform sort of was getting very big at this time too. And so I was also consumed by that and watching other people play video games and all the other stuff that comes with that. I still play football and obviously saw my friends at school and that. But I didn't really want to go out. I didn't really want to get a license or get a job.
No, and you didn't always socialise a lot either.
No, I wasn't super social. I was depressed at that time.
Yeah. You had a cupboard. We used to call Ethan's cupboard.
Yeah.
You were just always in your cupboard.
Yeah.
On your computer and stuff. But yeah, you didn't want to go out. In the holidays, you're often in your blue house coat.
I'd sit around in my house coat in my little closet and then play my games for all day. Or I'd play it all night and then sleep all day.
Yeah.
And then wake up for dinner.
Yeah.
I remember you were not happy about that.
No, well, you weren't very happy when you were doing that.
No.
Like, you might have been happy doing your games, but...
Well, that was my release. That was my instant gratification. You know, at a time where I felt like I was depressed. Yeah, I was not happy.
You and I were arguing.
Yeah. Yeah, do you think during that was the only time that we were arguing a lot? Or do you think that there were more?
I think we've always had healthy debates.
Okay.
You've been brought up to have an opinion. It may have bitten me in the butt a few times. That's
yeah.
Right. But I think you were quite emotional. Like, so you got quite angry and upset.
Yeah.
And so those arguments would turn into quite big.
Yeah.
Because I would get upset as well, and then we were both, and then I'd be like, shit. I remember one time we'd kind of had a big argument, and then you were like, fuck. And out you went. Sort of just thought, shit, like you're really upset and I don't want you to go off like that on your own.
Yeah.
And I think it was after that big argument that you said that you were suicidal and felt depressed.
Yeah. And then, I suppose we went together to see a counsellor. I think our relationship got a lot better after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said after that session, you said, I don't know that he said anything really helpful, but I think that I can talk to you now.
So I don't know what exactly it was about that whole sort of incident and little time period, but yeah, I think after that I definitely kind of came out of my slump. I think I still had some of that in me, and I think during some periods maybe I was still a bit down sometimes, and I think I still am, but I think in general, it was a lot better. That was pretty much a year of kind of being like that.
At this point, although we had already been living together for a while now, I think I was more aware of the nuclear family I had around me, and also the value of that family. In my head, we were more established after that, and I remember we did a lot of family trips around this time to the South Island, to rivers and beaches. I was also spending a lot of time with my nana and getting close to her too. Family was very important to me at this time in my life. Now, throughout high school, schoolwork had only gotten harder and harder for me. I no longer found it easy and enjoyable. All of my peers were excelling and I was barely getting by. On the upside, I had become closer with a guy in our friend group called Gavin. I remember he would often host parties and he would include me in them somehow, which really helped my self-confidence. At the end of our final year of high school, after exams, that went terribly by the way, Gavin and I hitchhiked around the entire North Island. At times it was scary, like when these 2 guys picked us up and the driver hit a bong while the passenger held the steering wheel, all while speeding through New Zealand country roads. And at times it was weird, like when a truck driver was telling us how radiation doesn't exist and how the government was hiding cars that ran on water from us. But most of the time it was really fun and the people were awesome. Like when this local French Kiwi guy drove us an extra 40 minutes out of his way while pointing out all of the landmarks throughout. This trip really made me realize how much fun adventuring can be and how much there is out there if you just put your mind to it. While the trip was great, over that time I knew I was cutting it close to pass my exams. I had so much anxiety. I had applied to Otago University to study psychology, but really I was just following where Gavin was going. But I still really wanted to get in and was genuinely interested in psychology. After a long wait, I finally got my exam results and found out I got the lowest possible passing grade for 3 out of my 5 classes, which is just enough to get university entrance. However, with these grades, I was not guaranteed a spot at Otago University. In fact, it was likely I would not be accepted. However, I found a loophole that if you were accepted into a hall of residence, they have to give you a spot in your course. So I found the smallest, least popular hall and wrote the most amazing, slightly embellished application, which to my luck, they accepted. My first year of university, I refused to let myself go through the same anxiety that I had over the summer. So I studied pretty hard and actually started to get good grades and enjoy what I was learning about for the first time since maybe primary school. That year, I started running and even ran my first ever marathon. I started making monthly vlogs and vlogs of my days. I wrote and performed poems for my hall's talent shows and award dinners. I also got my braces off, which did a lot for my self-confidence. I changed a lot that year, and I always thought it was due to moving to university and doing something different with my life. But the more I think about it, the more I think it was just the massive amount of spare time I had to sit in my room for probably 10 hours every day and contemplate what I was going to do with my time. Maybe halfway through the year, I had what you could only call an ego death. I realized that I wasn't exactly a very nice or approachable person, but I wanted to be a nice and approachable person. I believed that human affect was the currency of life, but I was a bad investment. I had always said to myself that I wasn't mean, I was just critical, and that you can't have one without the other. But that is complete bullshit. Which was hard to accept because of how much I had attached my identity to being what I called critical. But it extended beyond that. I didn't even like looking people in the eye or saying hi to them when walking past them. While I wasn't a psychopath or anything, over my life I had developed into somewhat of an antisocial person, or at least more than I had wanted to. I had real trouble with the idea of changing who I was because I had 2 conflicting beliefs. You could fake it until you make it, even with happiness and positivity, but I also wasn't a big fan of people who appeared unauthentic. And after all of this, I decided, screw it. I'd rather force myself to be happy, sociable, and nice than let myself be miserable, antisocial, and rude. I set myself a rule. Everything I did had to be in the pursuit of becoming an improved Ethan. If I was walking between classes, I had to look out for people I knew so I could smile and wave at them. Everything I said in a conversation had to be positive, or at least more constructive than it was critical. This was also an attempt to be happier, which I very slowly got better at over the next few years. I remember at first, all of this was incredibly uncomfortable and hard for me, but it got easier. I remember the night I decided to put my foot down about this. I biked over to Gavin's flat from my hall and sat with him in his lounge, explaining to him my conundrum. We talked for ages before I eventually made up my mind. Gavin told me to read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, which at first glance sounds like a book written by Hitler or something. However, I found and borrowed the book from the university library, and what I read felt so catered to my exact scenario. It was amazing, and was a lot more genuine than the title suggests. Thanks, Gavin. The next year, I started volunteering for a mental health line, and I also got really into home cooking, even though we lived next door to a McDonald's, KFC, and Domino's. I was also dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety at that time. Only just recently going through such a change in personality, I was questioning my identity and purpose in life a lot. But what I felt helped a lot was my running. Running really was my happy place. It didn't matter what else was going on in my life, I always had my running. What is even better is how many amazing audiobooks I listened to during that time. In 2021 alone, I read 16 audiobooks. My top 3 books of all time are How to Win Friends and Influence People, obviously, a book about understanding human interaction, The 4-Hour Workweek, a book to understand how to live your happiest life, and Sapiens, a book about why us humans are how we are. In the summer of 2022, after I graduated, Ryan introduced me to this girl he was interning with, Abi, a Malaysian girl studying here on a scholarship. She was smart, kind, adventurous, and not to mention beautiful. We hit it off quickly and proceeded to spend the rest of the summer together. The only problem was she was leaving back to Malaysia for good in March, and so after a lot of consideration and talking, we decided, screw it, let's try do long distance. It was very difficult, but we made it work. What made it easier was the awesome group of people I was living with. In fact, all of the people I lived with over my years at university were awesome people and friends. I remember this one time, they did something so nice for me. In the middle of my postgraduate counselling study, which I hated, they helped convince me to make the very good decision of dropping out. The issue with this is that I lost my student loan and eventually couldn't afford to pay rent. Abi helped pay for 1 month of my rent, and my flatmates paid for my contribution for a flat trip that we went on. I am incredibly blessed to have been supported by them. I owe them so much. But I was very uncomfortable with this, so after a month I made the difficult decision to leave my best friends in Dunedin and moved back to New Plymouth to work at the hospital again like I had last summer. I could pay my own way, but I miss my friends and life in Dunedin so much. As time went on, I kept working at the hospital while I tried to figure out what I wanted to do next with my career and life. But the more I worked there, the more I realized I did not want to work in healthcare or mental health for the rest of my career. Something I had just spent the last 4 years doing. This, alongside the combination of missing Abi, we came up with the plan of me essentially starting a new life in Malaysia with her. I wasn't going to fake my death or anything, but I could move there and try something completely new. So that is what we did. The day that I left, my whole family came up to see me off. They were all back together. One of the first times since my birth. I felt like finally everything in New Zealand was fully resolved and at peace. Just in time for me to leave. I was surprised how sad I was to leave my family, considering how excited I was to start my new life in Malaysia. Moving to Malaysia was very difficult for me. I had made a life for myself in New Zealand, and it didn't translate to Malaysia at all. I had to relearn almost everything about my daily life. The traffic, the running, the food, the social norms. I felt like I was never going to adapt. But you know what? I did. And although I have only been here for 5 months, I already feel like Malaysia is my second home.
It's been fun, it's been an adventure. I'm really proud of who you've turned out to be. I think that your next adventure has been provided by the universe in the meeting of Abi. And that is, I've always said to you, follow what you're interested in and follow, be open-minded and just don't try and think too much about the big picture about what's next. And I think, what's next is presented. And you're going to go and see the world.
I rock climb twice a week, run 4 times a week. I spend lots of time with Abi. I'm fumbling my way through my career, but you know what? I'm still figuring it all out, just like everyone else, and I'm having a good time doing it. And I think that's all that really matters.